Hey guys, it is Miss Patasha here. Thank you all so much for tuning into my podcast. Today on episode 10, we'll be talking to Hannah Rad. She is just so super cool to me and I love her personality. So let's go ahead and get into it. Hey Hannah, how's your day been?
Not too bad. I mean, it's busy, but getting a lot of stuff that's pretty good. You?
Oh, same here. Now we see you all the time on TV. I would love to know, how did you get your start in the entertainment industry? You know, growing up, was it something you always wanted to do as a child?
Well, growing up, I just listened to the radio very voraciously. I always loved listening to it in the car, at home, taping, because I'm old enough to know when I tape things off the radio. And I did my own shows in the comforts of my own bedroom. But, I went to school for graphic design, and that was another love of mine as well. And eventually started to kind of get the itch after a few years of working in design here in New York to want to get back into the love of radio, and started doing stuff there, and really quickly moved into doing a bit more work when it came to presenting and doing some audio editing as well too, and eventually moved over into TV as well. So it was kind of a long, fast progression at the same time. It took a lot of time, but it all started quickly in the same breath.
It sounds like it. Sounds very cool. Now, what was your first interview? Do you remember, your very first interview and red carpet event? Were you nervous?
I remember my first interview. I suppose this would have been back when I was on radio, and I just remember that I spoke so fast. I watched back the footage, and everything I was saying was great. I was having a hard time hearing myself when I watched the playback, and I think that's one of the biggest lessons I learned about myself when I'm presenting an interview style, that I can have a tendency to speak very fast, being from the East Coast and having certain New York City tendencies and sensibilities. Everything's a bit faster here. I think the lesson I learned was to slow down a little bit. The first red carpet, I'm not sure if I remember exactly what the first one was, but there's been quite a few between then and now. I want to say the first one was a movie premiere, and honestly, my brain is escaping me right now as to which one that was. But I just remember not knowing what to do and not really having any information as to what to go on, and I kind of just made it up and was watching the people ahead of me, because thankfully my position on the carpet wasn't right at the top of one of the first interviews. So I was trying to watch the people look out the corner of my eye just to make sure I wasn't either asking the same questions or that I was actually doing things in proper fashion. Because it was kind of getting thrown into the mix, which is the best way to learn something, is to kind of get out there and do it. And so that's what I did. So I was I don't even think I had time to be nervous. It was just okay, now go. There's people coming. Ask questions.
Right. So, okay, you got to go out there. You got to just do it, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Now, with your large following and people who support you and people who you are, inspiring in this world, how have you been able to use, the internet to elevate yourself and your brand?
I think it's just being able to utilize it in ways that are very genuine to me. If you watch on my Instagram or my story, I am a cornball. I am that's very authentic to who I am. I'm goofy as hell and kind of a big dork, but showing that side off to people and being able to connect with not only fans but brands and clients as well too, and just showing them a very real and unique side of me, I think that helps tremendously, because sometimes in things that are a bit more polished or edited together, you can tend to come off maybe a certain different way than what people expect you to be in real life. But the way that I can elevate my brand and the way that I do so is by, showing that off in this very real and organic fashion on Twitter, Instagram. I mean, those are the two that I primarily use. Snapchat as well, too. It's a better way of connecting with the people who you're trying to connect with.
Awesome. That is so true. That is very, very true, by the way. And I follow you on social media, and you're always working. And I remember my first time seeing you was on Revolt, and I was like, she is just taking no days off. How are you doing everything, and how much behind the scenes prep work goes into an interview?
Yeah, I don't take a lot of time off. I feel like I'm a Capricorn, and Capricorns love to work almost to a fault, to the point that they don't know how to take time off. But I've always thrived in those scenarios. Just having a bit more than like my plate can even hold is just to kind of be able to share the skills that I have. One, for the greater good of myself, but then two, just for the greater good of the people that I'm trying to support and help as well too. So yeah, there's a lot of behind the scenes prep work that goes into not only just interviews, but just daily life and just being able to manage a schedule that facilitates all of the things that I'm able to accomplish in the different outlets and such that I'm able to work with. When it comes to like a specific interview, I feel like I kind of got blessed with a bit of a photographic memory and like a really quick brain, in which if I'm given a certain amount of information going into an interview, I don't really need to do too much prep work with it when it comes to memorizing questions or lines or a specific script of any sort, and kind of go, like just play off the person I'm talking to and having a bit of a more natural conversation. And just rather than it being an interview, I'd rather have like a talk with someone, you know? You tell someone you're going to interview them, and they all of a sudden start sweating because they're on the hot seat.
And do you have like any personal mentors or people who have inspired you to become a person you are today?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, my first love was radio, so I always looked there to people whom I admired. And I think when I had first moved to New York, I always looked at Angie Martinez as someone who I absolutely loved. I loved what she did. I loved the way that she spoke and communicated, not only with artists, but with the people who were listening to her as well. And it felt more like a conversation and dialogue rather than someone telling you that you have to listen to something. They're telling you why and the behind the scenes and the stories about what makes artists so special. And then when it comes to the television work as well, too, you know, paying attention to people back in the day on MTV and VH1, and then also even E! News and ESPN. I actually looked at a lot of the sports anchors on ESPN because they are very true to themselves. They have their own little nuances and catchphrases, and I'm very blessed and lucky to work with a guy named Sal Masekela, who I work with over at Red Bull TV, and he's someone I've been long since admiring for the past 20 years of his career. And the fact that I get to work with him and host with him over there, it means the world to me, because he's someone I've watched on X Games to ESPN. He's done E! News, and he's now at Red Bull. And being able to work with someone that I've admired for many years in the game, that's a crowning achievement for me, just to be in his presence, which is really, really something special.
Wow, that is special. That's really cool. If we were to like walk a day in your shoes, what would be our experience?
Well, you better have running shoes on, because I walk real fast. I get up super early every morning. A couple years ago, I became really dedicated to working out and being healthy and fit and being very aware of the things I eat and the way I maintain fitness. So I gave up drinking coffee 2 years ago. So rather than drink coffee in the morning, I wake up and go to the gym straight away. Usually that's around like 6:30 in the morning, if not sometimes a bit earlier. So I go to the gym, get in a quick little sweat, a little workout. I'm reading emails sometimes when I'm on the treadmill and like responding to people nonstop. Then I come into the studio or the office, and I get a lot of production work done for my show, because not only is it just on camera, glamorous, front-facing work that I do, but I also produce my own show, which airs on Revolt once every week. So there's a lot of behind-the-scenes work and legwork that goes into it, between working with editors and our promo and marketing and social media teams, to booking artists and working with camera crews and all the less sexy stuff than actually what you see on camera. So that's a good portion of my morning. And then typically on a typical day here at Revolt, we'll shoot some news in the afternoon. Like today, for instance, delivered some news on some breaking stories. Also was able to shoot a rundown of my show. So basically the talk breaks for all of that. And then just, you know, work with all of the departments here and see kind of like what's needed and what's in need of from their ends as well too. There's a lot of stuff that we do with our marketing teams and with clients specifically, where for me, I'm lucky because I DJ. So a lot of times clients find that slightly attractive, that not only do they get a host, but they have someone who can provide the music as well too, and DJ an event for them, which is really fly. And it's just, my day is nonstop. And I usually go to bed around 1 or 2 in the morning, and then I'm up again at 6. So I get about a good 4 hours of sleep a night if I actually sleep. Because I am addicted to the phone, and I'm checking emails throughout the night anyway.
And then speaking of, like, before you're going on bed, I can't help but notice your fashion. I love your style. It's so cute. Are you picking your own, like, wardrobe before you go on set? Or do you have, like, a stylist?
We do have a stylist here who helps us pick certain looks or whatever, but I feel like a good stylist works with someone with their own personal style, and that's basically what I'm blessed to work with, is someone who knows and gets me, and then, can either work with stuff that I've already got on or kind of adjust and just change things that don't change my dynamic too much, but just fit into the aesthetic that I kind of not only am comfortable with, but the way that I want to be presented when I'm in front of the camera as well, too. But it's very fun. It's very carefree. It's a little casual, but I could throw on a dress from time to time, too. I'm looking at anyway.
And what advice do you have for, like, for someone who is wanting to get into television but has, like, no clue, how to break into the industry, and they want to be like you? What advice would you give people?
I would tell them, it's just to be true to yourself. Like, every one of us on this earth are unique individuals, and there's something special about each and every one of us, and finding that and sticking true to it is absolutely paramount. I think in terms of just moving into television, one of the biggest lessons I learned, because, I was in radio for 5-6 years before moving to TV, and in radio, you don't really need to be seen. You're just heard. So the toughest lesson I had to learn was how to be seen and not make it look awkward, because everything I was saying was great, but I looked a little bit awkward and stiff. And so someone told me from the jump here at Revolt was to film myself every day, even if it was like on my phone or just out talking into the camera on my phone and recording it and playing it back and looking at it and seeing kind of body positioning and what your arms were doing. Because I have the tendency to speak with my hands quite a bit, and that doesn't always work for TV. And so now I think even you can see, specifically on social media as well, too, I'm filming myself all the time. And part of that is, one, share and connect with the audience, and two, it also does me a service because I can watch back and see the things that I like or don't like about the way I'm representing myself. So just film yourself all the time. And then once you got something that you are happy to talk about, just post it. Put it on YouTube. Put it somewhere. Put it out on Instagram, whatever. And if you're, resonating with an audience, then the people in the right channels are gonna find you out, and that's gonna fly.
Yes, I love it. I'm like writing down notes as well. I like because I really love, like, how real you are and how professional you are, and I think, of course, you are inspiring to people. So thank you for sharing that. And also, thank you, no problem. And also, throughout your career, do you have, like, a moment that you would never forget? If so, what is it?
Yeah, it was year one of Revolt, and we were a couple months in, right after the channel had launched, and I was down in Miami covering Art Basel, and we were at an event that Russell Simmons was throwing. And at that point, I think Revolt had only been on the air for about 6 months, and so people didn't really know who we were, or where we were coming from, or what our backgrounds were, or if they even liked us on air, or the things that we were doing. And I saw Russell in the corner, and I was like, man, I've got to go say hi to him and introduce myself, because I've admired him for so long in his career. And I was nervous, and I didn't want to, like, intrude on his space because he had a ton of people around him. And I was like, let me just, that way, let me go get some food, and I'll just wait until, like, a moment presents itself. And I went over to, like, this buffet area and went to grab a plate, and I went to turn around and grab some food. And he was standing right in front of me when I turned around. And he was like, I know you. And I was like, oh, shit. I was like, am I supposed to not be at this party? Like, what do you mean he knows me? He said, I know you. And I was like, oh, really? And I was like, a bit taken aback. And he's like, yeah, I see you on my TV all the time on Revolt. He's like, I love what you do, and you're so true to yourself, and I appreciate your voice and how it fits in with that network. And he's like, don't change, just keep doing what you do. And I was so just in awe of someone like that who was able to connect with me and just share a personal bit of time. And I will never forget that, because I was the one looking to go talk to him, and he's the one that came over to me.
Right. That is so amazing. That is so cool.
Yeah.
And then, like, I just want to talk music, like, really quickly. What are your top 5, or who are your top 5 artists currently and why?
Currently, let's see. This project I loved from last year was Gallant. Young kid, just really sexy R&B, kind of Prince vibes. Just really, really good. I go back to that music quite a bit. He's really, really special. I love Kehlani. I love what she does with her music and style. I think she's incredibly dope. Let's see. Whom else am I feeling right now? That's like the hardest question, is asking a DJ who their favorite artists are right now. Vince Staples' new album is really great. He's got like some crazy beats on that album, Big Fish Theory, and it's like he's doing like dance music and rapping over it. It's just like super different and awesome, and I think he's just doing it really, really great. I think Rihanna is always like number one bae because I love her and I love what she does, so I'm never not in love on the things that she's putting out there. And then I think from like a younger, newer perspective, Khalid is doing some really special things as well too. This is the ones I'm going back to quite a bit.
Oh, and speaking of Rihanna, when you interviewed her, like, how was that? Like, were you like, okay, this is Rihanna, or were you just like, okay?
Yeah, that might have been my most memorable time, but it's so special that I tuck that away in the back of my brain and revisit it from time to time because it was just too crazy. We were on the carpet for the Rock Nation brunch at the Grammys 3 years ago, I think it was. And the carpet was almost over, and the team who was working it from the label were like, don't leave yet. We've still got one person coming. It's going to be really big. You're not going to want to miss it. And everyone's like, oh, it's going to be Jay-Z and Beyonce, whatever. And then it wasn't, because we saw them go to the party. We're like, forget it. And like a bunch of people left off the carpet, a bunch of media. And I was like, I'm sticking around for a second. I was like, I got nothing better to do. Me and my cameraman, we just stayed there. And all of a sudden Rihanna rolls up, and Rihanna being Rihanna and no fucks given, walks the carpet backwards and doesn't, like, comes around from the side that nobody came from. So rather than me being the last person she would have seen, because all of the television crews are at the end of the carpet rather in the front where all the still cameras are. So she comes the back way, and so I'm the first person she sees instead of the last. And she looks at me and she goes, you look really nice. And I was like, oh, shit, I think Rihanna's trying to come on to me. That was my brain like, over-analyzing the situation. And I was like, shit. And as she walked by to go get her still photos taken, her publicist was like, she's not going to do any interviews. Don't even try. And she, like, looked me in the eye because she saw that I was, like, getting excited about it. And so I was like, you know what? She commented on me first. I was like, she's going to walk back down this carpet, and I'm going to get this interview. Watch me. So she comes up, she walks by, and I was like, Rihanna, so tell me about being nominated for the Grammys this year and whatever. And so we start talking, and all the other outlets start rushing back, and they start throwing her. And even I'm the only one asking them.
Wow, that is so amazing.
Yeah, if you look back at, like, when it was covered, a bunch of outlets ran the story and they ran the questions because they were able to capture some of it from their microphones. But if you look at the photos that everybody was using and all the content, all you see is my hand with the Revolt mic right in front of Rihanna's face on like every outlet. But that's pretty fun. That's up there with Russell. That might even be more memorable because it's Rihanna. Like, come on, she's amazing.
She is. And also, in your opinion, tell us what being a strong woman means to you.
I think it's one, being very self-assured and confident, but then it's also supporting other women as well too, and just being that voice for females and women supporting women. And I think that's super important, and that's no diss to men whatsoever. But you can support your men too all you want, but I think strong leadership comes from many females banding together and really presenting a strong, unified force.
Mhm. That is so cool. And also, like, last but not least, I have to ask this question because you're on social media. I'm just like, okay, what is she doing? Because your body is so amazing. How are you, like, staying fit? I'm going to ask her this question. How are you staying fit, and how do you balance out everything, and what do you have coming up for us?
Well, like I said, I work out almost every day. So I I don't do much. I just do enough to maintain, and then I could still eat a cheeseburger and a piece of chocolate every now and again and not feel terrible about it. But I think it's just a matter of like staying dedicated, even because I travel a lot, and just being able to get into a routine, even if it's doing some push-ups and sit-ups in the hotel room before I go out to a shoot or go out to a festival, and just never really deviating. There's always a little something I'll do every day, even if it's just 5 minutes here or there. And if I'm able to knock something out, I love sweating. I'm weird. I get a joy and like euphoria out of like being really sweaty. So I think it's just something innately in me. I don't know where that comes from. Maybe from my parents. Thank you, Mom and Dad. But I love getting a good sweat on. Coming up, we've got plenty more with my Revolt show, Elevator, which that's every Saturday night at 11 p.m. Eastern Time. 30 minutes of, like, the biggest, freshest, rad new dance music. We've got a special that we shot at a festival in Iceland, so that's coming up. We've got an episode from On the Road in London, working with some really cool artists coming up that I can't say yet, but it will be a lie. And then also with Red Bull as well, too, we've got two of our final festivals of the season coming up, which is Lollapalooza in Chicago and Austin City Limits down in Austin, Texas. And
exciting.
Yeah, and then just DJing when I can in between then, doing some radio here and there, and basically never sleeping. That's what you can expect from me. Not a lot of sleep.
That is awesome. Well, thank you, Hannah. I really appreciate it. And I hope you all enjoyed this episode with Hannah Rad. I just love her. And you guys, don't forget that episode 11 is coming up very soon, so stay tuned. And don't forget to follow me on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at Miss Ashanta.
Didi.